from Breakfast with the Boss. You know, we used to be called Lunch with the Boss, but now we're called Breakfast with the Boss here on www.radiovisionnetwork.com. Our show, Breakfast with the Boss, is a show within a show because we have morning coffee every Thursday, and we're a segment within that show. And we would love to have you watch us and listen to us each and every Thursday. Again, my name is Scott Tanker, host with the show, and I have a very special partner with me today. Hi, Biz. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Now, we call her Biz, and we're not even going to tell you why, but she's a great gal. She's very familiar with the TV, very familiar with interviewing, and we have someone today that Biz and I would love you to meet. And her name is Eileen Jason. Eileen, how are you today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Great, great. Eileen Jason is a owner of ARTA Consulting. Now, ARTA Consulting is a very interesting business, the kind of business that I can really wrap my arms around, I should say. Why? Because they talk about the culture of doing business between employees and employers. We talk about how can they get along better to make a better atmosphere, a better environment, a more productive environment. And let's face it, we work 1/3 of our life, we sleep 1/3 of our life, and the other third I don't want to know about because it may not be something I should hear. But the fact of the matter is, working is so very important. It takes up all of our day. It takes up our enthusiasm. It makes our culture. It makes our feelings. We deal with people from all walks of life, and you know what? It's not easy. It's not easy. So welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Biz and I are so interested in hearing about how you got into such an industry. I'm passionate about dynamics of employees. Even if I can't figure them out, I'm still passionate about them. You can figure them out. You can help. Share with us how you got here and give us some backstory.
Sure, thank you. So I've actually been in corporate America for 25 plus years, and throughout those years I was primarily a project manager working with people. But my actual schooling background is computer science in an undergraduate realm. And also my MBA is in technology management. So although I worked with people, I was a lot on the technical side of that, but I was always intrigued with working with people. I always said, and I still say to this day, is I'd rather have a really good group of people to work with and a bad project than a really good project and a bad group of people to work with. And I stick by that, and always feel that way. But I've been, again, through corporate America for quite a few years, saw the changes from, early on to just recently, including the most recent 2008 financial crisis. And, that's when I became really concerned about, the employees and the retention rate and, the fact that they weren't always considered first within an organization, and rightfully so. I mean, companies were looking to, watch their bottom line, which they needed to do during that particular period. But I saw a lot of unmotivated employees. I saw a lot of people that were very disparaged, that they didn't want to come into work. And I also saw a lot of leaders that, really weren't close to or really didn't seem to think that that was important. And ultimately, I decided to go for my PhD in psychology because I loved people. And so I combined the two from an organizational standpoint and finally decided on the PhD in organizational psychology. So that helps me work within organizations to help the people side of the organizations, to help companies and leaders recognize the importance of and the fact that your employees are really the people that are making you money in the long run.
Most of the people who listen to the show, I'm gonna guess, are smaller businesses. Your background's in larger businesses.
Well, I've been through both. I've been consulting for small firms, larger firms. But the fact that I like the smaller companies, smaller, mid-size, and even larger companies, I was talking to Biz a little bit earlier, is the fact that I work a lot with the HR departments also. Right. And the fact of the matter is that on the smaller companies, some of the HR departments are small, and they're really focused on getting the processes done, making sure the paperwork is in place. Where I can come in and help them is sort of expand, some of their areas and help them with the people side of it, and get courses in place, or get things aligned so that people are communicating more effectively, particularly leaders within the organization, small or large, making sure that people understand how they behave with each other, primarily how to enhance that behavior, how to make it more effective. Also, in stressful situations, people act quite differently in stressful situations, and whether you like it or not, it is what it is. But I can help people recognize those behaviors and sort of step back and say, okay, I get it. also in how you're perceived. People don't always understand how people perceive them, and that's a very important aspect.
The thing, I owned a company. I was a partner in other companies. I was an employee in many companies. I've been the bottom of the heap working as a busboy at Ponzio's Diner, which is a local, for those of you who don't realize that. And I've been at the top of the heap where I've owned my own company with 15 employees. It is very hard to lead, and especially in today's world, it's so different. As I realized in the past, is that when you wanted to find good employees in the past, they were more loners. Now you find employees and they like to do work in groups. It's more of a group effort, and that people like to be picked out of the group because of their extra effort, not the only person doing that particular project. And my kids are old enough now where they're sharing this kind of work models that they provide now in today's world. They've created this.
Yeah.
And it's find it very, very dynamic. What bothers me the most, though, as an employer, is someone who isn't committed to the job, isn't enthusiastic. Now, I know that you can teach be on time. You can teach dress beautifully like Biz does. You can teach that stuff. We've had employees in my world, my lifetime, where I said, here's $500, go get some clothes. I mean, I said it a different way, and there's nothing wrong with that in my mind, because first of all, it's a compliment at one level, and it's also an observation at another. Okay, but I can't understand in today's world why there aren't more committed employees and happier employees. By the same token, I've never seen a world so unhappy since 2008 to today.
And you're right.
In the last 8 years, I've never seen such unhappiness. It's just unbelievable.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, it's, you know, and because people, the dynamic is quite different in companies today as it was.
And the work culture is
the loyalty is quite different. You know, and as the generations come about, you know, my generation is now getting ready to retire or you know, move on. You know, we've got several different generations of folks that work differently. Have been brought up quite differently, you know, in the social media. You know, they work quite differently than we do, or that I did in the past. And so, you know, employee engagement is in fact probably the most concerning point in companies. How to get those people engaged, you know, how to figure out, you know, how to make them part of, feeling that they're part of the organization. And that's one of the things that I do. You know, I mean, I use several different types of surveys. The Gallup Q12 is one of them initially. I don't know if you've heard of that or not, but I can come in and assess where they are immediately, you know, right at that particular point, and then find out, you know, work through different things, different types of, you know, exercises, and go through that, and then monitor it down the road so that it's not just a one and done, to make sure that people
are there similarities in all this, even though the industries are different?
Yes.
I mean, because some people say, oh, I'm in a doctor's office. That's nothing like, you know, the tire company that my husband works in.
No, there are, you know, there are people that are disengaged everywhere, from the doctor's office, you know, to the big corporations. You know, it's prevalent.
Do you find that there's any trends across the different, you say, okay, in the health field, well, the general reason why there's a disconnect between management and employees would be this, or in the financial field, do you see any trends where you can apply to certain fields that markedly show that there's a difference?
No, I'd say it's pretty, you know, straight across. I mean, there's a reason for it, whether it's a lack of communication, whether the employee doesn't feel, you know, valued by the company. You know, there are various different things that I look into specifically. And I always say to people, you know, and I say to companies, it doesn't take much to value your employee. You know, people think of the sleep pods, you know, with Google, and I'd love to have that, but yeah, right, exactly. And who knows?
You know, I work for a family business, and we're going to take a break in a second, but I wanted just to share a thought. And, we're with Eileen Jason PhD. You can get a hold of her at 856-506-5159. But before we go off for a little commercial, because someone has to pay for all this, our great sponsors, I want to let you know that I work for a family business, and we gave out turkeys at Thanksgiving, hams at Easter, and I don't see that anymore anywhere. And I think when we get back, I want to talk about how can we recreate that feeling. We'll be right back. This is Scott Tanker, host of Breakfast with the Boss, as part of our great show, Morning Coffee. Stay with us.
Simply Gents, located in Marlton, New Jersey, takes care of all your grooming needs, including haircuts, straight razor shaves, massages, facials, manicures, pedicures, and waxing. To find more information or book an appointment, visit us online at www.simplygents.com. The secret weapon of a well-groomed man, Simply Gents.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to make a really great sub, this is what we do. It's what we've been doing. It's what we've always done. It's what we'll always do. So what are you doing? Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
Today's show was brought to you by Alicia Kelly of White Horse RV Center in Williamstown, New Jersey. Alicia is your RV expert. Contact Alicia at alicia@whitehorserv.com or give her a call at 856-262-1717, extension 203. When you think of RV, think Alicia Kelly.
Welcome back. This is Scott Tanker, host of Breakfast with the Boss. I'm here with my beautiful partner in crime, Biz, and our wonderful guest today, Eileen Jason, who's a PhD in organizational behavior, a psychologist, and a really smart person, because she is trying to make business better by making business easier, by making doing business happier. So tell us some hints. Give us some ideas. As I mentioned right before we left for break, I mentioned that my dad, in my family business, used to give out turkeys at Thanksgiving, and the employees were so appreciative. Now, the C-level executives are like, okay, thanks. What do I do with this? But so there's a difference, and that's also important for people to know.
Yes.
You can't treat everybody exactly the same. As my mom used to say, I love you all the same, but I treat you differently.
Absolutely. Yeah, to motivate people, it depends, motivating different types of people within the organization. People are motivated differently, and that's an excellent point. A lot of companies say, I'm going to give everybody X, Y, Z, and everybody's supposed to be happy about it. But the idea,
Not everybody is.
And not everybody is, exactly. And people,
Never.
So in order to help people with motivation, particularly, find out what motivates them. Believe it or not, people, and especially today, 95%, there was a Deloitte survey recently that 95% of people surveyed that they prefer a good culture over making more money.
Yep.
So that, to me, is just an unbelievable
The
statement.
concept of life and the quality of life is much more prevalent than our parents were. What do you mean? You just go to work and make money, and life
Exactly.
is whatever it is.
Exactly.
We are like, well, wait a second. I like a little bit more leisure time.
Yeah.
My kids are much more making sure the quality of life is a balance.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure their balance is a heck of a lot better than mine, but
It's
they're
different.
trying now.
It's different.
I see they're recognizing it more than I ever did.
Well, and
when I
that's
was
the
your
thing.
age.
The millennials that are in the
Yes.
workforce now
Yeah.
have a much different working perspective.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they don't get the job done.
Yeah.
They just get it done differently.
They're so very smart.
And I think
Exactly.
that kind of plays into it generationally. So when we're talking about the millennials,
Mhm.
there's more opportunity in regards to creativity and kind of going out on your own.
Exactly.
Like, for instance, my mother, she had very rigid guidelines.
Yes.
She needed to go to college, she needed to
Exactly.
go get this job, you stay at this job for this amount of time, you
Yeah.
get promoted, and you have people getting pensions and they stay and then retire.
Yep.
But I feel like with my generation, there's so many options. I can learn about a job in California and decide, I want to go to California, which wasn't available before.
And
So there's
technology
less-
today can allow you
Exactly.
to even do that
Right.
on this coast.
Yes, you can
Not
work
only
from
that,
home.
you can work at home.
Yes.
And
And
that's
the
what leaders-
home-based businesses are 50-fold
Yes.
compared
Yeah.
to 20 years ago.
And they're going to be more, I think, definitely. And that's what that's what leaders need to understand. As they're going out, they need a succession plan, for people coming in, and it may not necessarily be the same work habits that they've, been brought up to say, as you've just said, but that doesn't mean again that they don't get the job done. Technology is so different than it was, even
But
10
I want
years
to go
ago.
back to blocking and tackling, because I'm an old guy. You guys are young and beautiful. I'm old, all right? And my idea is going back to basics. So, and when I was growing up in the business, there were very few companies had mission statements.
Yeah.
And very fewer ones had internal mission statements, which is one's external for the client and one's internal for the employee.
Sure.
I believe in both of those. The external one to me is a little stuffy, but the internal one is really important.
Sure. That's your culture.
Okay,
And
it's your
again,
culture,
yep.
and I don't think people spend a lot of time with that because they're trying to make money. They're trying to answer phones, answer computers,
Yeah.
and I love the people that come out of the business schools or the Whartons where they literally sit back and they step through it, and they have a stage of the game. And the old concept of planning is so important.
Sure.
And I started a couple businesses. I didn't know what I was doing. I just went to work, and I was lucky I had good people, and it all worked out.
Well, there you go. There's your people.
I see businesses that are good businesses with bad employees that will never work
Bingo.
out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm working with one now, a particular diner, not even local, down in Cape May area.
Okay.
That I think the guy's great. He's the worst businessman I've ever seen in my life, and this company will not make it. And it's too bad, because he's got a great location. He's got everything working great. He just doesn't have a lot of business, and his employees don't have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit, because we have it with the leader side of things.
Exactly, and you know, and I'm glad you brought that up, because my research specifically was on leadership trust. How to, you know, what are the factors that affect leadership trust? You know, and I did specifically the research during the 2008 financial crisis. I used the company that I was working for at the time, and turned out that there are really, you know, two basic, you know, factors that affect employee trust in leadership, and one of them is the culture of the organization. You know, and I always say, when I ask leaders, you know, do you know what your culture is saying about you? You know, and they're, oh, I don't, you know, it doesn't really matter, but it really does, because especially today with the social media, you know, you can have an employee that may possibly be disgruntled, taking it out on social media for sure. And then motivation, job satisfaction, you know, is the other factor. So, and again, we talked about that, you know, getting back to the turkeys for Thanksgiving. It doesn't have to be the sleep pods. It doesn't have to be the $1 million bonuses. But it does have to be some form of appreciation, and it has to be sincere.
It has to be personal,
Exactly.
as much as possible, sensitive to the thing.
Exactly.
We need to go to another break, but I want to tell you that I've had people I've worked with, some of them have been my people supervised that I put in that position, where their concept was, if your desk is here on Monday, then you're doing fine. And I've had other people say, I need you to fill out this 13-page report, and we're going to have a 180-degree review, which is everybody reviews everybody. We're going to be right back after these messages, because you're going to learn much more from Eileen on how to make your company the best it can be. Stay with us, Scott Tanker and my best buddy Biz, here with Breakfast with the Boss.
Simply Gents, located in Marlton, New Jersey, takes care of all your grooming needs, including haircuts, straight razor shaves, massages, facial, manicures, pedicures, and waxing. To find more information or book an appointment, visit us online at www.simplygents.com. The secret weapon of a well-groomed man, Simply Gents.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to make a really great sub, this is what we do. It's what we've been doing. It's what we've always done. It's what we'll always do. So what are you doing? Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Welcome back. This is Scott Tanker and my best friend Biz, here with Eileen Jason, who's an organizational psychologist, president and CEO of ARTA Consulting. We have been talking about the dynamics between employees and employers, and I think right before we went on break, we started to talk about the executives. We know that the employees love the little things, you know, and the cute little things that make them feel like they're important. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way. A turkey for Thanksgiving is an important item for a lot of people. But the C-level executives, if I can utilize that thought for a minute, they may not feel so good about that. So they may say, I want something a little more appropriate for my level. These are the things that go on in cultures that I think employers don't understand, or supervisors, that you can't treat everybody exactly the same. Now the problem I have with this is to keep the secrets. Because sometimes you have to not, certain people can't know. And then it becomes, even in an innocent atmosphere, it becomes a bad thing. You need to give us and the audience, more than me, the audience some hints on some ideas on how they can keep that playing field level and keep everybody feeling like, hey, you may be my supervisor, but we're still the same people. We're still equal in so many different ways.
Well, and that's it. Transparency, you know, is a big concern with companies, and it will be going forward. You know, a lot of people you mentioned back in the day, you know, it was hush hush. I don't know what that person's doing. They don't know what we're doing. But now in today's sort of open world, you get a lot of, you know, you need a lot more transparency. You need a lot of, you know, face-to-face time. You need a lot of more open communication, and that's, I think, very becoming a little more difficult at the executive level. What I try to stress to my people that I work with is the fact that you're going to gain more trust by openness, keeping the door open. You know, practice what you preach. Don't specifically say, you know, come into my office, I'm open anytime, and then build physical walls around you so that your door is shut. You know, your actions speak a whole lot louder than words, and that becomes very important, transparency, and making sure everybody understands and talking to people. And it's not just once a quarter, having a quarterly meeting where you sit in an auditorium, you know, with thousands of people, but, you know, have it on an ongoing basis and make sure people understand your mission. You know, I used to work for a company before I started working there. The CEO would walk around and sort of as a joke, you know, what's our mission statement? You know, what's our mission statement? And it was written on the badges, you know, that everybody had to wear, and it was kind of a joke, but it was funny. But the end result was, you know, they understood what the culture was, and they understood what that was all about. So.
What it's hard. The ingredients for success can be similar, or they can be totally different. And the people involved in those ingredients have all the variables. So you're really working in an environment that has so many variables that you can't control. One of the most important things, though, is to set the stage.
Yeah.
What I found is that if there's expectations, you manage people's expectations,
Yeah.
which, by the way, I can't say I learned immediately. It took me a long time to figure that out.
Yep.
So we're here today, and that's why we have this show, is to help people who should know that, and they don't know it only because maybe experience or because exposure. We're trying to get you there faster. We want people to work better together.
Exactly.
I want people to like their jobs again.
Yep.
And I don't know exactly where to go with this. And you're a perfect person to do that. So I want people to call Eileen. I know her initial consultations are courtesy of the firm. She didn't tell me that, but I'm telling you that. Her initial consultations are courtesy of the firm. Her number is 856-506-5159. She's located here in New Jersey, but she works throughout the country. By today's technology, she could be working in India. It doesn't really matter. But you definitely need to speak to her and get some ideas on how you can make your business better. And it's not always more widgets. It's not always a better seat, although oftentimes that is a good thing to be more comfortable. Because ergonomics is a very important thing. And I can give you stories, which I'm not going to, because I'm going to ask Eileen now to give us some examples of what happened and how did you fix it?
Sure. So ergonomics is very important. I mean, there is a lot to be said for sitting at a desk 8 hours a day and not being comfortable. I recently worked with a nonprofit organization in this area, and I worked with the president specifically and the executive director. And both of them, the president called me and was having difficulty communicating with the executive director. In addition to the 15 or so people that reported to the executive director, there was a complete disconnect. Nobody wanted to go to work. No one was happy with, you know, how that person was communicating with them. This person also had to do their reviews at the end of the year. He was sort of
real nervous atmosphere.
Very nervous, yeah. So I went in and gave him a quick assessment. You know, one of the tools that I have access to, I belong to the American Psychological Association and Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology, so I have access to various different assessments, and this one was sort of a fun as well as a very telling assessment. And we've identified their working styles, their natural styles, their working styles, and the way they work under stress, and also how people perceive them. So I sat with the president, gave him his report. Eyes went open wide, like you would not believe.
What was the style? We don't know who it is.
Well, so the
what
style
was
he was very conservative. He was very detail oriented. Really needed to be crunched in the numbers. Was not comfortable being in front of people. And you would think, as a president, they're more comfortable being in front of. But it's not always the case.
Yeah, and it's usually the case that they're not comfortable.
Yes, or that they don't want to do that. You know, for whatever reason.
Not who they are.
But yeah, this president and the person that reported to him, the executive director, was very dominant. He had to be the runnings of the show. He wanted to make the decisions, you know, very much out there and, you know, just kind of like very quick, didn't want to see the details. I mean, you couldn't have more opposite end of the spectrum.
Often wrong, but never right.
Exactly. So, you know, once they both realized that, we worked together, you know, again, I said it before, the light bulb went on, and I gave them, you know, ideas, behavioral styles to understand each other's behavior, and it's not, especially when they're stressed. You know, people who are aggressive have a very distinct style when they're stressed out. You know,
not usually complimentary to anything.
Well, and that's just where it doesn't necessarily mean that they hate your guts, you know, or that they're out to get you. It's just their behavioral style, and people start understanding that and realizing that, you know, and the president was very much, when he was stressed, he kind of withdrew and went into himself and didn't want to, you know, have to deal with it. So once they understood that, you know, I gave them exercises, followed up, and they're on the road to really actually communicating more effectively.
I have to share, you know, as an owner of a company, we do have to go to another break, I think, but as an owner of a company, my employees would alert me when I was stressed, and I was not a good stressed person. I used to almost get spazzy, because I was just all over the place, and someone had to just sort of put me back in my spot. And when I tell people out there who are employees, understand employers don't know it all, just like parents. They're going to make mistakes. Some of the stuff they've never done before, they may act like they know because they think you need to see that, but you need to understand and have a little sensitivity that some of the stuff that they do, they don't know what they're doing. And oftentimes I find employees are much too critical without understanding that fact. We're going to be right back. Right, Keith, we'll be right back. We'll be right back. We have my best buddy Biz. We have my new best buddy Eileen, and we're here with Breakfast with the Boss. Hang with us. We'll be back in 30 seconds, maybe 90 seconds.
New Jersey takes care of all your grooming needs, including haircuts, straight razor shaves, massages, facial, manicures, pedicures, and waxing. To find more information or book an appointment, visit us online at www.simplygents.com. The secret weapon of a well-groomed man, Simply Gents.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to make a really great sub, this is what we do. It's what we've been doing. It's what we've always done. It's what we'll always do. So what are you doing? Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
Today's show was brought to you by Alicia Kelly of White Horse RV Center in Williamstown, New Jersey. Alicia is your RV expert. Contact Alicia at alicia@whitehorserv.com or give her a call at 856-262-1717, extension 203. When you think of RV, think Alicia Kelly.
Welcome back. This is Scott Tanker, host of Breakfast with the Boss, as part of Morning Coffee with my best friend here, Biz, and our guest today, which is Eileen Jason. And I want to ask a question, and I know Biz wants to ask you one. The question I have, and this is because of me, I'm the kind of, and people probably know me, I'm a pretty casual guy, and I say things flippant. And my intentions are always honorable, but it doesn't always come out that way. And I make mistakes. The world is so sensitive now compared to when I was growing up in the world. And you had to learn to have a little bit of a tougher skin, which, by the way, is not a bad thing to have a tougher skin. But now it just seems like no one, they're so sensitive that there's no such thing as tough skin, and you're afraid to say things, you're afraid to, you know, maybe sometimes motivate people by other means that in past worlds it wasn't so bad, but now it seems like, oh, are you trying to say something wrong to me? What do we do with that? I'm, as they say in Yiddish, I'm verstumpt.
It's a good question. What I would say is, in order to help prevent those types of situations, because you're absolutely right, the world today is much different than it was 20 years ago. Find out what motivates that employee. Find out what makes them tick, what their likes and dislikes are. You know, and that's kind of what I do. I mean, I can either design a survey, or there's plenty of surveys out there to identify, you know, what works with that employee. Because, as you said, physical pat on the back, you know, is not so right in today's world.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but it might be something different that motivates them, and that's just along those same lines. So, you know, invest in your employees. Find out what makes them tick, and you'll be so grateful. And honestly, it increases the bottom line, because it will ultimately increase productivity. You know, once they feel appreciated, And again, it's not the $1 million, bonus check. Although if you can afford it, that's great. It's just the appreciation. It's, the smaller things and being consistent.
It's all about communication.
Exactly.
If the employee can tell the employer and the employer can tell the employee things that they really need to tell them without fear
Right.
of taking it the wrong way or any kind of reprisal, you can get so much done.
And that's where I come in as a third party, because a lot of times there might be that initial friction between,
Just
the
to
two
open it
parties.
up, just to say, I don't know how to even get it started.
Exactly. And
Because
people
either we
feel-
start on the wrong foot or
Yeah.
I don't even know what foot I started on,
Or even
Yeah.
making sure that you're providing solutions.
Right.
Because the problem is
Right.
a lot of people, they get together and they will talk.
Yes.
They'll talk.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
But they're
yeah.
not coming to a solution, and so you just leave more stressed and
Exactly.
more disgruntled
Yeah.
than before. So giving them a third party to kind of say, okay, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the way you were treated, how were you?
Exactly. And I don't have any stake in the game. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a third party coming in, I don't know you, I don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah,
your executive that you're reporting to. I'm objective. I can look at things on a much more objective basis. And
Now, one of the things I learned, I'm going to share with the audience, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, that if you think your meetings are too long, you have stand-up meetings. You don't sit down.
That's an option.
Because
That's
a lot of
certainly
people
an
meet to meet.
Yeah.
And I remember in the old days, another meeting to find out another meeting to find out another meeting, and nothing gets done. All you do is
Yeah.
go to meetings.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I met a guy who said, "This will go fast. We're going to stand up."
Yeah.
People don't want to stand up for too long, and they want to go back to their seats and get some stuff done.
And then how the follow-up, how do people feel about that? So then you would engage them afterwards
Right.
and say, okay, this is our new approach.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, the irony is that a lot of people think most meetings are silly anyway, so might as well get them over with.
Yeah.
Although some meetings have real
Absolutely.
needs.
Yeah.
It's just such a dynamic world out there. I've worked for big companies with thousands of employees.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked for smaller companies with 50 employees,
Yeah.
and now I work for myself with 1 employee.
Yeah.
And it's a very dynamic way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when you're by yourself, you win and lose on your own.
Mhm.
When you're with others, you win and lose as a group, which
Exactly.
I've always enjoyed working as a team.
Yeah.
That's also why I think sports are a wonderful microcosm of life.
Yes. Builds teamwork and camaraderie.
And I think that if you can get sports-type activities that are fun without any fallout in your corporate culture,
Yeah.
it's very cool.
Yeah.
Whatever that may mean.
And even if it means a competition within,
Within.
or a picnic where you have sporting events and
Mhm.
people involved, it doesn't really have to cost a lot of money.
What are the couple things you could share with us that employees and employers should do to make it better for themselves and for their opposites? Couple hints.
The opposites you mean as far as their working behavior?
Themselves and each other. In other words, what can an
Or
employee do to help themselves? What can they do to help the employer? And an employer, what can he do to help himself? And what can he do to help the employee? There's like 4 things going on.
Yeah, keep an open mind. I mean, the first and foremost thing is open that door, open and listen, learn listening skills and allow your employees to come in and allow them to, openly discuss with you, what their situations are without, reprisal from the HR group. Learn how people work together, and that's where I come in. Again, you have to be working with somebody. It's sort of like your work husband, your work wife, your work family. You work with them 8 hours a day, if not more. That's sort of where I can help. And if you don't know why you're not getting along with that person or why that person aggravates you or you just can't communicate effectively, maybe sometimes you need a third party, and I can kind of help with that and just be open to the fact that not everybody is like you. And I would also say, when you learn your behavior, it's much easier for me as my behavior to talk with somebody in my behavioral style. But if you're really trying to communicate with someone who's opposite of you, you need to learn to communicate their style.
One thing that leaders have to be is much more chameleons than employees have
Yeah.
to be. And I'm sorry, but leaders get paid more money. Supervisors get paid more money. And the accountability and the expectation and the responsibility is there for that reason. So just because you think you're just like the person you're supervising, you do have to step it up. You do have to take that extra special looking out for them, looking over them, and you making the changes to let that employee be the best they can be.
Yeah.
Because if you're a really good supervisor, that's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen enough.
Yeah, and we're all stressed out. I mean, one of the, the United States, I don't have to tell anyone, is the most overworked.
Yeah, they
know,
think
company.
we're. I know we work in this.
It's
Our
crazy.
country in the Western world works
Yeah.
longer than most any other country in the world.
I just heard recently France, I think it was France,
Yeah.
said that they're going to knock off the emails after 5 o'clock and on weekends. And we hear that and we're thinking,
What, are you kidding me?
We're so attached to
Remember,
our
you used to think that
technology.
the Asians, Japanese used to work longer hours.
Yeah.
We
It's
do.
us, we do,
And so
we don't.
that's what bothers me is the last 8 years we're working longer and harder. I don't think we've gotten any farther.
Yeah.
Some of us may even be behind.
Yeah. And if we're doing that, and if we need to work in that environment, if we're expected to do that, do some things to make it fun. Do some things to make it, enjoyable for the employees.
If you want to make your company the best it can be, if you want looking for strong culture, cohesion, effective leadership, if you want to get the job done, you want to make more money, you need to speak to Eileen, because she is going to give you ideas that have nothing to do with equipment, has nothing to do with paper, it has nothing to do with even the talent that you bring to the table. What it has to do with is human interaction, which, believe it or not, if you don't know it, the more you get along, the more you get done.
And hiring the right employees is important.
And hiring the right employees.
Absolutely.
Now, I want everybody who's listening today, and for those who aren't listening, you're going to be told by the people who are listening to call Eileen Jason, and her number is 856-506-5159. She'll be happy to talk to you, work with you, assess your situation at whatever levels you want, whether it be the owner, whether it be the C-level executive, whether it be the online employee, the line employee, or all the above. She's the person you need to speak with first and foremost. She has the experience, the expertise, the exposure. Please give her a call. I know you won't be disappointed. Eileen, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
It was great being here today with you. I've learned a lot. Hopefully our folks did too. Biz, I think we did another good job.
I think we did.
Everybody have a great week. For those of you in the South Jersey region, we have finally got the sun. So ha-ha to the rest of you. We're having a great week and a great weekend. We'll see you next Thursday, each and every Thursday, 9:30 to 10. Be there or be square. Scott Tanker signing off from Morning Coffee, and we'll be right back with some more interviews. Thank you.